It started like any other Wednesday in Westminster. The House of Commons was buzzing with energy. Cameras were rolling. MPs filled every green bench waiting for the Prime Minister's questions. That weekly showdown when words become weapons and reputations are made or destroyed. But no one knew that this ordinary afternoon would turn into one of the most talked about political moments in decades. Within minutes, the session would erupt into chaos, testing not just tempers, but the traditions of British democracy itself. According to parliamentary sources, tensions had been rising behind the scenes for weeks. Opposition figures had grown increasingly vocal about government policy. Among them was Nigel Farage, the leader of Reform UK, who that day came prepared with what he described as new data and leaked information. He stood slowly, holding his papers, and began speaking in a measured tone. His statement was direct, a sharp critique of government handling on migration, costs and border security. But one particular line caught everyone's attention. He accused the government of betraying the voters' trust, a claim that immediately drew sharp reactions across the chamber. The Prime Minister, visibly tense, clenched his jaw. According to those present, the atmosphere changed instantly, as though the air itself had thickened. Farage's comments were pointed, but still within the rules of debate. He ended by asking when the government would take responsibility for what he called failed promises, and that's when the mood shifted. Without being officially recognised by the Speaker, the Prime Minister reportedly stood up, interrupting the proceedings. His voice, at first steady, quickly grew louder. "How dare you lecture this government on compassion," he said, his tone rising, "when your own politics have divided this country for years." Gasps echoed around the chamber. Even veteran MPs, those who had seen decades of fiery exchanges, fell silent. The Speaker immediately called for order, but the tension had already broken the surface. Witnesses described what happened next as unprecedented. The Speaker, invoking long-standing parliamentary authority, asked the Prime Minister to resume his seat and calm the chamber. But according to accounts, the Prime Minister continued speaking over him. That's when the Speaker reportedly took a rare step, citing Standing Order 43, an old parliamentary rule that allows for the removal of any member who disrupts proceedings, regardless of rank. The Prime Minister is directed to withdraw from the chamber, the Speaker declared. A stunned silence followed. Cameras captured the Prime Minister standing frozen for a moment before quietly complying. Security staff guided him toward the exit. It was a moment that seemed almost surreal. A sitting Prime Minister leaving Parliament in the middle of a live broadcast. And just like that, British political history had a new headline. Within minutes, clips began circulating online. The footage spread across social media at lightning speed, shared and reshared millions of times. Some viewers saw it as a shocking collapse of order. Others saw it as proof of the deep divisions running through Westminster. Major news outlets, Source, BBC, Sky News, described it as an extraordinary day in Parliament. Commentators called it a defining political moment of the decade. The debate quickly shifted from the argument itself to what it symbolised. A clash between composure and anger, between control and chaos, between the rules of old Britain and the realities of its modern politics. In the hours that followed, both the government and the opposition released statements. The Prime Minister's office said he was passionate but deeply committed to parliamentary democracy. Reform UK, meanwhile, called the moment a turning point for accountability. Across Britain, public opinion began to split. Radio shows, newspapers and talk programmes all asked the same question. Had Parliament gone too far or not far enough? Political analysts weighed in, explaining that while the Speaker's authority is absolute inside the Commons, the sight of a Prime Minister being asked to leave was virtually unheard of in modern times. It raised constitutional questions, not about legality, but about stability. Over the next few days, the story dominated headlines. The polls fluctuated wildly as voters reacted. Some called it a symbol of political decline. Others said it was a reminder that no one, not even a Prime Minister, is above parliamentary rules. As the days passed, more details emerged about the moments before and after the confrontation. According to source parliamentary transcript, the Prime Minister returned to Downing Street and held emergency meetings with senior aides. Reform UK seized the moment, holding press conferences calling for calmer, more accountable leadership. The political temperature, however, remained high. This incident may go down in history not for what was said, but for what it revealed. That in a system built on restraint, emotion can still overpower reason. That authority, even at its peak, depends on perception, and perception can change in seconds. In the weeks that followed, Parliament carried on, but the shadow of that afternoon lingered. Late-night comedians joked about it, news panels dissected it, hashtags trended and faded, but one truth remained. Trust in British politics was shaken. By the end of the month, both major parties had reshuffled their messaging. The Prime Minister focused on regaining stability and discipline. Opposition parties pushed narratives about control and credibility. The Speaker, for his part, defended his actions as necessary to preserve the dignity of the House. For ordinary citizens, though, it all seemed like another reminder that Britain was entering a new kind of politics. One more emotional, more unpredictable, and more fragile than ever. And as one commentator said, source independent political analysis, in the age of social media, power doesn't collapse slowly. It collapses live and in real time. Because sometimes in the oldest democracy on earth, all it takes to change everything is 3 minutes of chaos. This video is for informational and commentary purposes only. All events are based on publicly available reports and interpretations. Viewers are encouraged to verify details through official parliamentary records and major news outlets.